It was a great night for diversity in the United States. The Americans made history in many of the election results. Let's start with Massachusetts. The voters have elected the country's first openly lesbian governor. 51-year-old Maura Healey is touted to have won a historic election.
To every little girl and every young LGBTQ person out there, I hope tonight shows you that you can be whoever you want to be.
Meanwhile, New Hampshire became the first in U.S. history to elect a transgender man to a state legislature. 26-year-old Democrat James Rosner identifies as bisexual and has vowed to push for pro-LGBTQ legislations. Arkansas has also made history. Sarah Sanders has become the state's first female governor. She used to be the former White House press secretary during Donald Trump's term. Alabama has also elected its first woman senator. Republican Katie Britt has cast herself as part of a new generation of conservative leaders and will become one of the Senate's youngest members. Moving on to Florida now. 25-year-old Maxwell Frost has won in the 10th Congressional District. This makes him the first member of Generation Z elected to serve in the U.S. Congress. This is historic for not just the United States, but for the world. Experts say Frost's participation could encourage more youngsters to take interest in politics. From the youth, let's now move to a senator who's defining the phrase, age is just a number. In Iowa, Chuck Grassley has become the oldest member of the Senate at 89. Grassley is one of the longest-serving U.S. senators in history. He's held one of Iowa's Senate seats since 1981 and has never received less than 60% of the votes in his re-election bids. For more on the midterm elections in the U.S. and their possible fallout, we earlier spoke to Dhruv Jaishankar, who is in Washington, D.C. He's the executive director at the Observer Research Foundation in the U.S.
Any election is hard to predict. The polls going in had showed that the Republicans might do very well. There was even exit polls last night showed widespread dissatisfaction with Joe Biden and his presidency. His approval rating remains around 40%. Yet, I think what to many people's surprise, the Republicans did much less well than expected. They will probably control the House, but by a much the House of Representatives, but by a much smaller margin. The Senate still hangs in the balance, but as of now, with the Democrats taking Pennsylvania, it does look in the Democrats' slight favor, although there may be a runoff election in the state of Georgia on December 6th. And that may actually determine the final composition or the balance in the Senate. So by and large, the foreign policy very much is within the ambit of the executive branch of the presidency and the cabinet. But Congress, both the House and the Senate, play an important role of foreign policy in a few ways. One is they hold the purse string. So any kind of major acquisitions, major spending has to be approved by Congress. And so, for example, when it comes to the war in Ukraine and providing military assistance to Ukraine, Congress does play a significant role in approving a lot of that. A second is they can actually make life difficult because they have oversight over a lot of foreign policy issues. They can hold hearings. There was some speculation in the past that, for example, that the House of Representatives might hold hearings on the Afghanistan debacle from last year and the Biden administration's performance in that. So that's another way they can actually draw attention, sometimes very critical attention, to foreign policy issues. And finally, I think something of particular relevance to India is the Senate must approve appointees of a certain rank. For example, in the case of India, the ambassadorial appointment of the U.S. ambassador to India has been pending for some time. So that hangs in the balance as well.